Welcome to CNN Talk. You're watching us on Facebook. We'll be live on CNN in just a few minutes. And we're talking about actually some happy news for once. Often the news cycle is full of dreaded pessimism, but today we have some happy news to report because after months of anticipation, we've got a new royal baby, seventh in line to the throne, and we want to get your thoughts or reaction. How does it feel? Send us your comments and tell us where you are writing from, just to get a sense really of the mood about this story. In terms of the panel, faces you know very well, Rachel to my right, Bonnie, as well as Ian, they're all very keen to talk about something happy, or maybe not, I don't know, depends. Now, you've written quite a bit for CNN about this. How do you feel about it?
Well, you know, when you wipe away the gooey stuff, you know, after all, I mean, you know, we're all happy that a safe baby is delivered in this crazy world. I mean, that's something everybody can rejoice about. But I think, and I told Ian I was going to get him in this discussion, I think what's incredible is that, you know, in the theater, they have this device called Deus Ex Machina, when suddenly something is going on and then this thing drops in the middle of it and changes the play. Here we are in Brexit Britain, okay, grappling with our identity and what we're going to do, all of this. And here comes this tri-national, multi-whatever baby in the royal family who's just like changed the game. Yeah. He in himself has changed the discussion. And it's going to be very interesting because this kid, you can believe, this kid's going to be brought up with everything that he is. And it's going to make, he's going to be a game changer, this little boy.
You think so as well? What do you...
Potentially. I mean, I do think, you know, the last few weeks there's been, you know, these jokes. I've seen a few cartoons with, you know, our Prime Minister stuck under a table saying, please make this royal baby arrive already, just to get her out of
distract from everything else.
Distraction. And of course it's a welcome distraction for people who are sick of that political deadlock that Brexit has put us in. And it's a very interesting one in terms of, as Bonnie says, what exactly this baby represents. Yes. You know, finally bringing the royal family into the 21st century in terms of, you know, mixed heritage being so normal and acceptable in the wider nation up and down the country. And so finally having the royals reflect that, I think is significant.
A mirror on society, isn't it?
I'm so excited about this. Actually, I'm not.
I know.
But it's.
Well, we need to balance it differently, so it's quite refreshing.
I was excited to hear that they're going to call the baby Brexit, which I think is a terrific idea.
I thought it was Marvin, right?
Because the joke was that if they call it Brexit, at least they can say they delivered on something.
Right, exactly. Very good.
Sorry.
Boom.
Very good.
Sorry. Look, Britain has been the home of fairly depressing news of late, and of course, it's a nice upbeat. An upbeat story for people to celebrate. There's, you know, one shouldn't be too cynical about it, but I will be a little bit. I'll find a way.
Okay. And I know, actually, just looking at some of your comments, some of you were saying, who cares? But I just point out those cynics out there are still logging on to CNN, logging on to websites and reading about it. It was, in fact, the most picked up story on CNN.com yesterday and throughout the day. So it gives you a sense of, doesn't matter how you feel about it, you still want to know more, you still want to hear more about this fact.
Yeah, the British royal family is a huge global brand.
Absolutely.
What's fascinating about it is the way in which it has flipped over into the digital age.
And very astutely. Very astutely.
Although they're old-fashioned, anachronistic in many respects, it still has this allure which lots of other, well, there aren't that many other sort of globally famous royal families, but people still tune into it. It's interesting, in Britain, the reaction has been, I think in some senses, a lot more muted. The coverage outside the UK has been really intense in the US and in Canada.
Of course.
Of course.
Because of her heritage.
The baby is American.
Yeah.
But in Britain, the newspapers have been divided. The Daily Mail, which is edited by a royalist, has got a mid-market tabloid, has got 23
I thought it was
pages.
35.
23. Maybe they went up for subsequent editions. I don't know, but for first edition it was 23 pages. But then the Financial Times
Has nothing.
Has one paragraph.
Yeah, but
saying
This
baby
Financial
born.
Times, I don't think they expected the Financial
Well,
Times to go quite in detail about the royal baby.
But maybe, you know, 3 or 4 paragraphs rather than one. I think they were making a rather deliberate point.
Okay, we've got 10 seconds. Send us your comments and where you are writing for. That's important. We'll discuss throughout the show. We'll go live to Windsor as well. Max Foster to give us the very latest. After months of anticipation, a new baby boy has entered Britain's royal family, taking his place and 7th in line to the throne.
Breaking news, it's a boy.
The newest royal baby has finally made his debut.
It's been the most amazing experience I could ever possibly imagine.
The prince says they're still deciding on a name for their 7-pound, 3-ounce baby, but there are no shortage of guesses.
Charles.
Andrew?
I rather think Marvin or Earl is a nice name.
Will it have a title? Will it be a prince? Will the Queen grant that?
The Sussexes, now a family of 3 and ready to settle in to their new home in Windsor.
This little thing is absolutely to die for, so I'm just over the moon.
One person maybe said, Donald, what do you think? What's your reaction to this new royal baby? Are you excited? Maybe you don't care about it. What does this baby mean for the royal family? How do you interpret it? The news, send us your comments at facebook.com/CNNI and tell us where you are writing from to get a sense of how you feel about it. First of all, though, we want to go live to Windsor because Max Foster, who should be here anchoring, is instead in the glorious grounds there by Windsor. Max, talk to us a bit about the excitement where you are and this photo call. Is it going to happen, yes or not?
It is going to happen. We think it's going to happen tomorrow. Well, it should happen tomorrow because Harry's planning on going on a tour, would you believe, on Thursday to the Netherlands for a day. So we're expecting him to come out with his wife and new baby, and there'll be a small photographic pool there, just as we saw yesterday when we saw that interview, trying to get this balance right between, you know, what the public wants, what the media wants, all that detail, and also celebrating privately. They're desperate to keep this a private moment as well. This is why we've got the situation today where some British media are reporting that Meghan was rushed up to a hospital in London to have the baby, but the palace simply won't confirm whether or not that was the case. They say it's a private matter. And this is Harry drawing the line between public demand and, you know, a duty to fulfil his public role and actually his right to privacy, which is deeply entrenched, as you know, Issa, from those childhood years where he felt that the media invaded his mother's life, his brother's life, and crucially his own.
And Max, we're seeing the video of Prince Harry, who sounded very euphoric, but slightly shell-shocked, I think, from the experience. Now we've been talking about names. What are you hearing? What are the top names being considered?
What are they? I mean, I hear new ones all the time. Alexander, Oliver, James, these are all the ones that keep coming up. I mean, it's utter speculation because they haven't decided yet. Harry said that yesterday. They're probably having a bit of an argument. Obviously, a lot of people in the United States hoping for an American name. I think Meghan might lean that way as well. She's patriotic. This baby isn't ever going to be king. We can't really imagine that situation ever happening. So maybe, you know, he's being brought up in a castle in the UK. It's appropriate to bring the American side of his family in with the name. We wait to see. We'll expect that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Issa, also titles. The Queen has to decide on them.
Final question, Max. We're getting lots of comments on Facebook, people basically saying, who cares? Some people just not interested at all. Explain, I mean, I was trying to explain in the break in our Facebook chat how this is a story that everyone's clicking on Facebook, on CNN.com, in fact. It was one of the most read story on CNN.com. Why does it matter? Why should people care?
I think, you know, Disney has a lot to do with this, frankly. This is a fairy tale. Look at the castle. This is a 1,000-year-old monarchy. It's the best-known monarchy around the world. When I travel with the royals, They are, I think, the most famous family in the world. Everyone has heard of the British royal family, and Bonnie speaks much better to this, but what Meghan has done is bring in all these different elements. You know, she's an older mother, she's a divorcee, she's American, she's mixed race, all of these things. And she's worked, she's had a career, and she's spoken openly as well. She can connect with a lot of people that the current royal family can't connect with, and that's good for the royal family because it makes them more relevant.
Max Foster there for us. Thanks very much, Max. Joining our panel here, faces that you know. We've got Benny Greer to my left. We've got Ian Martin there and Rachel Shabby, faces regulars here on the show. Bonnie, Max mentioning you there. What does it mean? What does this baby mean for this country at a time where we're just talking pessimism, negativity, Brexit, lots of ethnicity aspects to this as well in terms of, you know, welcoming foreigners to this country?
Well, as an immigrant, I'm a naturalized citizen, but I'm a foreigner.
Yeah.
This is not a good moment to be a foreigner in this country. It
Why
just
not?
isn't nice. Brexit. And part of it is, and I'm not blaming people, but it's a real existential crisis for the country. Now, people are asking, who are we? Who am I? You know, what do I want? Who am I? And that's what Brexit really is. Are you this? Are you that? It's very deep, and it's very much for me looking at, I know who I am in relation to this country, but I wasn't born here. I wasn't brought up here. So standing back and looking at this has been a deep, deep lesson in trauma. What this baby brings, and I'm saying it for my part, is this baby brings a question. This baby is, at the moment of his birth, he is a tri-national, and Brexit is about nationality and identity. This baby, as Rachel and Ian has brought up, he has a mixed heritage. He is also the descendant of an enslaved African. This is the 400th anniversary of African people being brought in chains to the United States of America, and the incredible serendipity of this child being born in this year is massive. And it is also about, we're asking questions about, can you actually make a border that stops people from being together? And that's what this is about.
And that's why in your online article you said this is nothing less than this baby's nothing less than a revolution.
This kid is a revolution, and he's going to live it, and he's going to be it. And people can go back to the gooey, icky stuff. I mean, you know, it's a baby, and also we're no, seriously.
I'm with you.
You know,
I'm a mother. I've got two kids, and it's a baby.
And I'm thrilled.
But I'm thrilled too.
I'm thrilled that, you know, any time a baby is safely delivered, it's a wonderful thing. And really, congratulations to them. And Harry looks like a transformed guy. I love when he said, when he came out,
it was very good.
Women like, wow, I bow down. You know, women.
Slightly shaken,
he was like, wow. But, you know, for us in our question, for people who are leave and people who are remain, this is an identity question. This baby, like something in the middle of a play, is dropped down, and he is the question. He's the question.
Okay, you don't think so. You know, just from your face, your expression just says something completely different.
Politely, and well, I agree with a lot of that about the identity question and what an interesting development this is. However, I think the main reason that those people who are really interested in it, and this is an enormous story, the numbers don't lie in terms of where people click and what people buy, is that really, I think it's simpler than that, is that people have had a long period in Britain in particular, that's where the story's happening, in which the news has been pretty gloomy and pretty depressing month after month. And here comes something which is by its very nature uplifting and refreshing. And also the other thing is there's something in this for everyone, because even the Brits who pretend to not be interested in this, people like me, actually really, really like having a chance to moan about it a bit and to appear to be more cynical than they are. And there is also, I mean, we've read recently about difficulties between the two boys. And it's just fascinating to see them actually grow and develop. I think we're very lucky to have both of them. I mean, whether the story longer term plays out as a fairy tale is quite another matter. You can already see the British press and tabloids elsewhere in the world sort of gearing up for the next chapter, which might not be quite so idyllic.
Rachel, we've got Jen Powell's writing in, this baby is a miracle that will challenge the usual narratives of the royal protocols. They're definitely doing things differently.
Absolutely, they're already doing things differently, just in the way that they are making the announcement and introducing the baby to the world, very different to what we've seen before, and refreshingly so, I would say. I think that it is, I completely agree with what Bonnie is saying about the representational idea of this coming into the UK at a time of Brexit. I'm also not born here, though I am British. And I think what this baby is representing is a complexity of identity that Brexit has disallowed or made people feel uncomfortable for in a really painful way. And this baby is saying it's going to have to navigate the complexity of having a hyphenated identity, which is a good thing. It's a positive thing, and it's something to be celebrated. And hopefully having this at royal level will be an opportunity to do so. However, I don't think we should pin too much hope on the representational politics. We know that bicultural having bicultural children does not eliminate structural, systemic racism in society. Marriages and births does not per se eliminate that. That is another story and another chunk of work.
But go ahead.
But, you know, I mean, absolutely correct. And I didn't mean to say that things would break down. But I think we have been deeply unkind to each other in this country over this Brexit, deeply unkind. And the things that we don't get, and I'm a passionate Remainer, but what I hear from the people who I care about who leave, who don't get to say this, is identity. We don't want to talk about it. And I mean, on a deep, profound level, there are people who don't want change. That's okay. You know, and this is true across Europe, across the United States. We don't give a legitimacy to that conversation. And this baby is the kind of person, and he's the most privileged, one of the most privileged people in the world. I mean, you know, so in a way, who cares? But the other part of it is that he does and he can cause us to be kinder to each other in our conversation, because this is about identity. It's not about politics. It's not about Europe. It's about who you think you are and how you want to live. And that's the way it is across Europe and in America. And that's the way we should proceed. And this baby begs the question.
I can't doubt lived experience. And if that is how people feel about the way things have been in Britain in the last year or two, who am I to question that? I would, though, just point to most of the recent academic research which is done on the studies in terms of Britain's attitudes to integration and immigration. Tony Blair's institute published a really interesting report on it 2 weeks ago. Suggests actually the opposite. While the Brits have a real downer on themselves about this for understandable reasons, the British are more open to integration and immigration than just about any other nation in Europe. Of course, I'm not denying lived experience or the nature of the problem, but if we're discussing this in terms of identity, Britain has less of a problem, arguably, than a lot of the rest of Europe.
Which is the tragedy of the whole thing, Ian. That's my point. I think what Rachel is saying is absolutely true. You can have both those ideas in existence at the same time. Part of it is that the British, and this is my experience, the British are extremely polite people. This is extremely polite country, and I mean that. People, it takes a lot for the British to get up in your face and be nasty. When they get there, it's bad, okay? But it takes a while.
We seem to have crossed that line with Brexit.
They have. See, that's my point. So the British default is to live and let live and be polite. Brexit has brought out something else now, and that's the thing that I feel.
Let me just show you some of the newspapers, because you were mentioning some of them who care very much about this story and why this story is still talking about it. This is some of the... we can put it into perspective slightly, but you can see Harry pretty much beaming in every single one of these shots. Is absolutely to die for, incredibly proud of his wife, and these are just some of the papers. And this is how it was informed in Instagram first. There came the Instagram announcement, and then a couple of hours later, I believe, if I'm not correct, then it was the easel. which surprisingly tends to be the other way around, but now social media is
beat the easel.
completely... But interesting, if we look at this easel, correct me if I'm wrong, those who have covered royal births, normally it says they thank the royals, the medical team, but there was no mention here of a medical team. Why the secrecy? Because I know when I registered my boys, you have to say where the child was born. Eventually, everyone's going to know.
Well,
so why
have
keep
to
it?
do that.
So why keep
legally.
it? Yeah, legally it was. So why keep it secret?
There's some controversy about this with royal journalists in Britain feeling that they've been misled in some way about where the birth
That it was a
happened.
home birth, but it
That
wasn't.
sounds to me as though that's her business, and we'll find out in due course, and that there isn't a constitutional obligation to please royal correspondents.
Exactly.
No, completely. And to me, it doesn't matter. The most important is the baby is healthy.
There isn't.
And there was also in the run up to the birth. Remember, there was the controversy about whether she was going to use the Queen's surgeons, which. Again, to me, sounds like her choice. Just on the newspapers thing, that was fascinating. Just you could see.
I'll bring it back up again.
As a
It's
former
working properly now. Go ahead.
newspaper editor, you can.
There you go.
These newspapers know their markets. I mean, the Times, the paper that I write for, write a column for, done it in a very Times way. They've used a picture, but they haven't said this is the most important thing in the world. There's still other stories there for sort of middle ground readers or classic Times readers who'll think, well, you know, is it the most important thing in the world? The tabloids have just gone for it and they know their market completely.
I love the Sunrise.
Yeah, interestingly, one of the even more down market British tabloids, the Daily Star, didn't put it on its front. And,
well, let me
just
show
put,
you.
I think the head.
Here we go. I'll show you this. This is the Daily Star.
Woman has baby. Yeah,
American actress has baby. If you really don't care, read, and it tells you what pages to read.
And that's just that's the editor of a sort of show business newspaper trying to get on a brilliant TV show like this. So it's really kind of reverse marketing, and it really worked. It's just him or her trying to find something distinctive because there'll be everything else on the newsstand.
I was speaking to Kate Williams, who's a royal correspondent, royal commentator, and I was asking her what kind of been the Twitter feed, what's been like. And she said lots of people who support the monarchy are up in arms of the fact that they're keeping this whole thing very private. They feel like if they're paying taxes, if they're part of the monarchy, then they should not have a right to keep this private.
Well, you know, this is what's so incredible about them, and listening to Ian especially, the brilliance of British journalism still exists. It's robust, it's vigorous, it's contentious. It's all of these things. If you want to know a lot about this country, look how it treats the royals when these things happen. It's gorgeous. But the other part of it is these people are 21st century, you know, upper end millennials. And they are going to do their thing.
Their own way.
Now, you know, interestingly enough, in the end, that brought this up too, the royal family is probably arguably the most successful brand out of the 20th century. These people were invented. They were invented in 1917, 1918, because the king decided we got to stop being Germans, okay? Because this is a war, this won't do. All right? So we're going to change ourselves to the Windsors.
Marketing.
And then part of what we're going to do is we're going to stop marrying royals, we're going to marry commoners, and we're going to let a little bit daylight in here. And then we're all old enough to remember Diana, who came in with a sledgehammer and broke all the windows. And now this man, Harry, is her boy, and he's going to do exactly the way she did it. And it's going to be incredible. Everybody get ready, because it's going to be heavy.
All right, we'll continue the discussion after the break. Of course, you're looking at a video there of Diana with Prince Charles. I think she was holding Harry there. And we'll talk about how they're doing things differently, and should they be doing things differently. Personally, I applaud them. We'll have this discussion after a very short break. We'll continue the discussion as well on Facebook. They've gotten something else to keep us distracted for another week. They should call him Little Brexit from Texas.
He's not from Texas. California. Brexit from Texas.
This guy is from Texas. We don't care, says a lady from Jerusalem. Can the negatives just go away? Karma's sharpening her nails for when your baby's born. That's very nice. Diana is smiling. So on the whole, a lot of people were very happy with the news, but some people basically saying there are other stories that are more important in the world. And we're not saying that this is the most important story in the world. We're just it's just happy stories, a happy one to report. But let's go back to my question to Bonnie earlier, which was about the amount of comments, according to this royal correspondent saying to me, that she's getting from people who feel like they're moving too far away from tradition.
See, I find that really, it's a really bizarre sense of ownership.
Yeah.
That is quite, it seems to cross a line in terms of being invasive on a very private front. When I saw Harry come out to make the announcement, I was actually really pleased that it was him, that it wasn't, Meghan being forced to come out hours after delivering a baby, as did the other royals, as did Kate. I found that painful to watch that she was asked to do that.
Let's talk about that on the actual show.
It's very important.
Welcome back to CNN Talk. We are talking about the new royal baby. Want to get your reaction? Send us your comments, your thoughts, and tell us where you are writing from. I'll read them out. I've got a couple of comments here. This baby is a miracle that would challenge the usual narratives of royal protocols. Congratulations to the parents, Suzanne Bailey and their baby boy, wishing them all the best, and not snarky comments from the deeply disturbed. Max says, sorry, elitist nonsense for very bored people. And Heidi says, Harry's giddiness was lovely to see. And one more, Isiosa writes, I feel this baby belongs to the whole world. So continue sending us your comments and telling us where you are writing from. We want to show you our word cloud. We compile all your comments and look for keywords that stand out. Congratulations, as you can see, is the main word. Lots of emoticons I see, making the most of your emoticons today. Meghan, baby, Harry. Brexit's coming in because, of course, talking about Brexit, because that's, in a world where we've just talked about depressing stories and Brexit are not getting anywhere. This is actually a change from the usual. So lots and lots of little hearts and lots of happy comments for the royal couple. Some of you just simply don't care. I want to show you...
They write in and say they don't. Those are people I love.
Care, but it's terrific use of emoticons.
Right, this is the best, this is the best part. Let me just show you the line of succession here to get a sense where this baby will be. There we go. So 7th in line to the throne. Prince Louis, that photo there looks a bit like my son's passport photo.
It's great.
Doesn't look too thrilled. Doesn't look too thrilled about this.
All babies look alike.
And so we'll have an idea in the next 2 days, I think Max said, perhaps tomorrow, what that baby will look like. The one thing we were talking about in the break, in fact, Rachel, that Rachel was mentioning, was the fact they are breaking away from tradition. They are doing things very differently. I think we've got video, still images, I think Stephanie, I'll tell my producer, can bring up, of Princess Diana coming out with their babies, and then we also saw the Duchess of Cambridge. Oh, here they are. So we're used to this. In fact, Kate did it 3 times. She came out several hours after, looking immaculate. This is Kate, I believe.
That's William.
With
That's
George.
That's George.
And then Diana with Harry. But the fact that they're not doing this in the same way, as a mother who has given birth twice, the expectations that you need to look like this. I think I remember when the 3rd time she came out, time after time, so many of my female friends were like, she's not helping us. But the fact that Meghan's doing something differently is quite refreshing.
Yeah, I think that is actually a big step forward, because that expectation that a woman will do that hours after delivering, the last thing she's going to feel like doing and having to look like that is an excruciating pressure to put on a woman who's just become a mother, literally hours ago. And I'm so glad to see that Meghan did not replicate that. I think that's a bad tradition. We can get rid of that one.
I agree, but it has. This is not defending it, but just an explanation for it. It has really deep roots in British history, and that's how monarchies
but
tend to
operate.
But it
goes back to Diana, is that correct?
No,
it must be some kind of proof.
That is a modern modern manifestation of proof.
You must show
an heir has been born.
You must show the heir.
400 years ago, that would have been the proclamation, and that would have been the word spreading in different ways. That would have been the court confirming, and various officers of the officials of the court confirming that it had happened. I'm not defending that.
Yes.
But this is a modern media incarnation of that process, and there are some. It's not my cup of tea, but there are some modern monarchy fans who still have that need for affirmation and still want to see and feel that as taxpayers.
That's the other thing. The taxpayers. There'll be many people think as taxpayers they should.
You know what?
Right
I'm happy as a taxpayer not to see that.
Yeah.
But you know, not that far down the totem pole end. You know what I mean? This guy is number 7. They didn't bring. I mean, you're right. They either Harold or somebody brought the heir out.
Yep.
To show that the baby wasn't born in a warming pan, it's switched by somebody else. Because in France, they actually were there with royals to see the queen give birth. And in many cultures, you hold the baby up and you say, this is the heir. But when you go down the totem pole, you don't actually have to do that. But I think what Rachel said, and I'm glad she outed my feelings about this. The first thing I thought when Catherine came down the stairs is not to knock her, because it is an incredibly brave thing that she did.
Absolutely.
And totally 100% total on the job.
Yeah.
She was on the job.
She is
on
a pro.
the job.
Hats off
With
to
the
her.
first baby. She comes down the stairs in heels.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking,
Everyone
oh my
winced.
God. And she walks down the stairs in the heels, and the cameras are blinking, and William is like over there somewhere. And I'm thinking, oh, no. But she did it. And the hair, the keel, she comes downstairs.
She did it 3 times.
The seat, the car
She
seat.
was.
He was
Yeah,
messing with
He
the
actually did
seat.
quite well.
He was doing something useful.
But the first baby, this guy is constitutional,
Yeah.
William. So we have to see William. He's the Constitution. The rest of them we don't.
But
need.
I'm a royalist, but you're making me feel like a Republican. There are worse jobs
I
than
have to
standing
wrap
having a
you up.
picture
I
taken.
know.
I have to
Nevertheless.
wrap you up. Okay, some couple of comments coming in. Fred, being a black man, I'm glad one of us is with the royals. Finally, some happy news. Anybody who has become a father knows what I mean. And Isabel, I'm just thrilled and adored seeing Harry smile last night. From all of us here, congratulations to them.